used to waste my breath on the courthouse steps, trying to explain the fire burning in my chest. But the valley only loves what it can buy and sell. They call you dream a circus till you build the well. Now the laughter from the porch don't sting no more. It just drifts like dry leaves past my kitchen door. The more they spit their venom, the less I feel the bite. I just pour another whiskey and welcome the night. Let the crows keep talking on the wire overhead. I am counting up the miles that I have left to tread. They won't ever praise the sea, they only want the shade. But I ain't gonna trade my soul for a cheap parade. The louder the mockery, the colder I grow. There is a quiet kind of thunder that the losers will never know. A man gets weary of the noise in a crowded room, where they judge a wolf by the thickness of his chains. They wanted me to bend so they could feel polite, to watch my neon wildness turn to black and white. But I found a dark assurance in the isolation ward, where the only thing that judges me is my own shadow and the Lord. I don't need their clapping hands to know that I am real. You can't break a spirit that has turned to rusted steel. Let the crows keep talking on the wire overhead. I'm counting up the miles that I have left to tread. They won't ever praise the sea, they only want the shade. But I ain't gonna trade my soul for a cheap parade. The louder the mockery, the colder I grow. There is a quiet kind of thunder that the losers will never know. They want you on your knees before they call you great. They wanna see the bleeding at the garden gate. But I survived the winter without their dynamic fire. Now my silence is an ocean and their gossip is a briar. The shade, but I ain't gonna trade my soul for a cheap parade. The louder the mockery, the colder I grow. There is a quiet kind of thunder that the losers will never know. The calmer I become, no explanations left, just the highway and the wind. The calmer I become. I see them walking through the neon rain at night, living like ghosts with their eyes turned off from the light. They had a fever too when they were 21. before the mortgage and the winter took their rising sun. They sold their lightning for a steady paycheck and a roof. Now they look at me and demand some kind of proof. They call me crazy 'cause I still believe in beautiful things, while they are satisfied with broken plastic wings. But there is a difference between breathing and being alive, and I refuse to let my inner kingdom take a dive. They look at my coat, they look at my worn out shoes, they count up my scars and they tally up the things I lose, but they are missing the only thing that matters to me. I carry a fire that nobody else can see. It ain't about the talent, it ain't about the skill. It is a dangerous ember burning on a lonely hill. The world will try to spit on it with their cold reality. They wanna drown your magic in their gray banality. They surrender to the dirt before the shovel even hit. They signed the papers and they agreed that this was it. But this madness in my blood is the only truth I know. It keeps me warm when the northern winds begin to blow. Let them call it a delusion, let them call it a sin. At least I know exactly whose skin I am standing in. They see the smoke, but they never can find the spark. They wonder how I keep my footing in the heavy dark. They laugh from the porch, but they will never understand the decree. I carry a fire that nobody else can see. Die at 35, to the ones who kept the reckless rebel heart alive. They might lock us out, they might call us fools and clowns, but we are the currency that never can be melted down. When the concrete kingdoms crumble and their iron fences rust, this hidden flame will be the only thing that rises from the dust. I am proud of the madness that they could never tame. I am proud to be the caretaker of this nameless flame. Oh, let the night grow long, let the winter freeze the ground. This outlaw spirit is a treasure that cannot be bound. I stand in the shadows, but my spirit is wild and free, 'cause I carry a fire that nobody else can see. Nobody could see, but it burns anyway, right here in the dark. It burns. It burns. watched him from the corners of the smoking neon rooms. We were the walking dead, hiding in our well-kept tombs. We wore the uniform, we spoke the words they wanted us to say, while our own wild dreams were rotting in the clay. We saw them spit upon his name, we saw them call him mad, but he held his chin up high with everything he had, and looking at his bleeding feet, we felt a sudden shame for blowing out our fires just to escape the blame. One by one, the quiet ones stepped out into the night, leaving all the safety and the flickering porch light. We ain't looking for a prophet, we ain't looking for a king, but we found the rusted key to the songs we used to sing. Better to live a crazy life on a rocky, broken track than to die a perfect shadow with a spine that had to crack. Town folks started whispering when the benches started clearing. They looked inside their churches and they found a different fear. And he never turned his head around to see if we were there. He just kept walking forward through the cold and bitter air. We didn't need a golden speech to make us change our mind. His silence was the loudest bell that we could ever find. We saw the way he owned his scars like badges made of gold, and we got sick of buying all the safety that they sold. One by one, the quiet ones stepped out into the night, leaving all the safety and the flickering porch light. We ain't looking for a prophet, we ain't looking for a king, but we found the rusted key to the songs we used to sing. Better to live a crazy life on a rocky, broken track than to die a perfect shadow with a spine that had to crack. They built a wall so high to keep the madness locked inside, but they forgot that thunder doesn't have a place to hide. You can bury down a seed beneath the concrete and the stone, but it's gonna find a way when it is tired of being alone. Ones are stepping in his dust, watching all their iron cages turn to yellow rust. We ain't looking for a prophet, we ain't looking for a king, but we are heading for the border where the wild outlaws sing. Better to live a crazy life on a rocky, broken track than to die a perfect shadow with a spine that had to crack. Out of the shadows, one by one, the quiet ones are moving now, never going back. Since he was young, he never saw the sky through their eyes. While they prayed for shelter, he was begging for the storm to rise. They calculated every single step on the concrete line, but he dug his leather boots into the dirt where the sun don't shine. He said, we are not born to be a shadow that just fades away. We gotta leave a heavy scar upon this cold and bitter clay. But the valley people whispered with their rusty razor tongues. They called him a fool, making noise with burning lungs. And they laughed like a flock of crows on a dead pine tree. They laughed because he crossed the lines they were too afraid to see. But he learned a bit of truth in the neon dark and cold. A blazing fire always scares the sheep inside the fold. They did not hate the man, they just feared the ghost he made. They only laughed because he walked too far ahead of their shade. The town folks loved the comfort of a golden painted cage. They watched the wild horse running with a silent bitter rage. The bolder he became, the more that concrete kingdom shook, because his freedom was a mirror where they were too damn scared to look. He never spent a single breath trying to prove them wrong. The blood of the trailblazer makes the desert highway strong. They called him a rebel, a sinner breaking up their peace, but they just fear the giant dreams that they could never reach. And they laughed like a flock of crows on a dead pine tree. They laughed because he crossed the lines they were too afraid to see. But he learned a bit of truth in the neon dark and cold. A blazing fire always scares the sheep inside the fold. They did not hate the man, they just feared the ghost he made. They only laughed because he walked too far ahead of their shade. How many saints were crucified before they built the shrine? How many outlaws swung from ropes before they drew the line? The crowd is always moving slow, afraid of what is new. By the time they see the sunrise, he is already passing through. Into the dust, he keeps on walking forward while their iron fences rust. He knows the law of the highway in the shadow of the night. Not every man who walks alone is losing in the fight. Some souls are born tomorrow while the world is stuck yesterday.